Hi, everyone, and welcome back to our final day, day 12 of our 12 days of holiday self-care. It's been so much fun to be doing these recordings and interviewing members on our team. And we're going to wrap up today with a really important topic that could have probably been done at the beginning of the workshop, but we're going to end on it. And that's being kind to yourself. We're going to think about talking about being kind to yourself for managing energy, expectations, and effort. And all of these things can help you maybe redefine what the holidays mean for you, set realistic goals, and hopefully avoid disappointment. I know that if our expectations are too high and they're not met, then we're just left with disappointment. So we have Kellsey here today to share some of her tips with us. Kellsey is an occupational therapist on our team. And Kellsey, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and a little bit about what you do at the clinic and how your services maybe tie into the topic today.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so my name is Kellsey and I'm an occupational therapist at ALN, and I work with clients across the lifespan. And when I think about being kind to yourself and how that relates to OT, I think about kind of our three core areas. Self-care is things like being able to follow through with our hygiene practices and sleeping and eating and those kinds of things, and grocery shopping and, money management, all those kind of self-care things. Productivity being, being able to go to work, or if you're a student, if you're a child, it's your ability to play and go to school. And leisure are, doing things that are meaningful and fun to you. And so when I think of being kind to yourself, it's the ability for you to be able to follow through with all those different areas in your life. And as an OT, I'm able to work with clients and figure out, what are some of the barriers, what are some of the reasons why we aren't able to be kind to ourselves in those three different areas, and figure out what kind of approaches are going to help them achieve their goals in those different areas.
Excellent. Well, we're so happy to have you on our team working with our clients, and we're happy to have you here today with this final topic that we're diving into. So we've got 6 tips here that you've prepared for us. Let's dive into a very big one that I think has come up in some of our other segments, but again, is just another reminder, the practice of self-compassion.
Yeah, it's a big term and a hard one, I think, for people. And the holidays can be very overwhelming. It's really easy to have these feelings of guilt or inadequacies if things don't, go as planned. You didn't get the right gift. You didn't bake the right thing. You didn't eat the food that someone prepared. But practicing self-compassion can really help shift your narrative towards kindness and acceptance for yourself. And so, burnout is a really big concept that I think most of us are familiar with, and it's a really hot topic that people are aware of. But it's important to know that burnout doesn't mean that you're failing. It's actually a sign that you've been giving it your all, really, right? You've been all in. And self-compassion allows you to care for yourself as deeply as you care for others, or for as deeply as you've been all in whatever tasks you've been doing. And it's important to know that letting go doesn't mean that you failed either. It just means that now you're making space for new things, and that includes self-compassion. And so by treating yourself with kindness, you're acknowledging your own worth. And it's beyond just what you do, and it's beyond accomplishments that people can see on the outside. Yeah. And so there's a lot of different information out there about how to deal with burnout and what to do. And so a few things would just to start with reframing your expectations. Then it's easier said than done, but remind yourself that it's okay to do less this year. Oftentimes we're setting up, what we're going to do in the following year, and we have these big grand things that we want to do, but maybe this year it's permission to not do as much, and that your value isn't tied to how much you accomplish. And it's okay to allow yourself to lean on others and to do things with people. it's okay to move on from something that may not be perfect or maybe not what you expected it to be. And sometimes thinking about maybe what you would tell a friend if they were in your situation, sometimes that can be a starting point, because, like we just said, we're often really compassionate and giving our all into it for other people. And it's harder to do that for ourselves. And so sometimes thinking about what you would tell a friend can be helpful. And then just maybe finding some practice in the new year about, and over the holiday season, about giving yourself some positive affirmations. This can be either before you attend something this holiday season, maybe it's during or after, but even just saying phrases like, I'm doing my best and that's enough. This is, I was supposed to bake something fresh for this holiday gathering and I wasn't able to, and I'm picking it up and I'm doing my best and that's enough, because I'm still attending, I'm showing up, I'm present, and no one is mad that I didn't bake something fresh, right? Telling yourself that resting is an important part of healing. For those of you that tuned in, we talked lots about that on our day 6 of this self-care series. And each small step that you take, or telling yourself, each small step that I take is helping me move forward. And, one final one would be maybe just that when you're growing, when you're trying new things, not necessarily when you're just striving for perfection.
Mm-hmm. Those are great tips. And something kind of came to mind as you were sharing when we talk about that kind of expectations of, I guess, being expectations of doing it all and then not being able to do it all, and then practicing kindness to yourself. I remember this time I have this good friend who would send these lovely Christmas cards every year, like homemade, handmade ones. They were beautiful. And in my mind, I was like, oh, these are so nice. I wish I could do that. I'm going to start trying to make these. And I started making these beautiful handmade cards that stressed me out to the max. And then years later, I had mentioned to my friend, oh, I love the cards that you make. They're great. I started making mine too. And she's like, oh, I get my sister-in-law to do those. I pay her for it. Like, what? So even that, like, reframing expectations, even saying to yourself, like, these are lovely. I would like to make some, and maybe I will make a few, or maybe I will make them in the summer for getting ready. But like, also recognizing that, like, it's maybe not the way it might seem. Like, it might seem like this person is doing it all, but maybe they're just hiring it out too.
Yeah. Well, I think like the first example of like, I'm doing my best, that's enough, is I really love writing individual cards and writing them all out. And so I do try and plan that out, a few months in October, because otherwise I can't sit down and just write a whole bunch of cards. Right. And so there's some years where that works and the plan works and I get it all done. And then there's some years where, okay, I got to give this group of people are going to get a holiday card, and, and it's okay that it changes throughout the year. And I also notice that other people do the same. And I don't think any less of the person that gave a group card one year and gave an individual card the next. So yeah, I think that's a great example.
Well, I took last year off doing cards, because I was like, I've never done that in like 20 years. I was like, I am going to lean into understanding myself more. I'm going to give myself permission to take a year off. So this year I ordered everything ready to go, and we're in the middle of a postal strike.
I think everybody's going to be getting Christmas cards in June, I think, this year.
Yes, exactly. I'm just a little bit pissy about that, but okay. That's a great tip. And practicing self-compassion is a lifelong practice, and it shows up in so many other areas too.
Absolutely.
The next topic is kind of like dietitian OT related. When we think about being kind to yourself this time of year, we've been talking a lot about letting go the guilt, the shame when it comes to enjoying or savoring the foods that you enjoy. And maybe not everybody enjoys holiday foods, but I think the act of being kind to yourself and letting go of expectations shows up with food as well. And if we decide to maybe cut back or restrict or not enjoy those foods that we do love, it's is harmful to ourselves. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how important it is, I guess, to savor these foods that you love, and denying yourself of these experiences can actually cause stress and deprivation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the holidays are definitely a time where you're full of traditions and wanting to enjoy some foods that you love. And yeah, denying yourself of these experiences can, like you said, create stress and can have longer term impacts for different reasons. And so I would hope that people can try and reframe kind of what holiday dishes are often tied to, and they can often be tied to special memories or moments or a favorite recipe from a family member that's no longer with us. And so by enjoying these dishes, you're honoring those traditions or those people, and you're not doing anything wrong to your body by eating those holiday dishes or having those favorite foods. And so one actionable tip is that just to really trust your body and trust yourself that you can handle the indulgence and that's okay. And that the few festive meals is not going to define your health. And they're more likely to create memories that are going to last far beyond the season. And those are going to be really heartfelt, meaningful moments for you. And I think the other piece is, when I think of from an OT lens, is if there are favorite foods or holiday traditions that come every year that are very stressful for you for maybe different reasons, and there's some pressure to have those, sometimes you can offer to bring a dish yourself. Maybe you can start a new tradition with your family, or you can give yourself permission to not be able to have maybe that one particular dish, but so still enjoy the tradition with your family. So I think there's kind of two things about this tip. One is enjoy the indulgence, trust your body, it's okay, enjoy the memories that it creates. If there's texture or taste or a lot of the new stuff that comes with holidays, give yourself permission to maybe bring a dish or to join the holiday in a unique way.
Yeah, that is so true. That is so true. Thinking about what is that? Like fruitcake. I remember like that was just so horrible. I was like, I don't like fruitcake. So I was like, you gotta like fruitcake. And that would be one memory where I was like, no, that's a holiday one that I just choose to not partake in.
Yeah.
And be okay with it when everyone's saying, oh, you should like it. It's like, no one should ever tell you that you should like something else. Like we're in charge of our own bodies and our own tastes, textures, and preferences. So no, that's a great tip. Tip number 3, enjoy joyful movement. We talked a little bit about this in some other segments, but there's sometimes that expectation of what movement should be, maybe especially after a holiday meal or after a couple of days of rest. Mm-hmm. But movement can look so many different ways. So why don't you share?
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, movement during the holidays doesn't have to be about compensation or about earning your food or, recovering after a holiday meal. It's more about connecting with your body in ways that feel good and that bring you joy. That's the intent of joyful movement. And movement is one form of self-care. It's not punishment or an obligation. It's meeting your sensory needs, your neurological needs. It's connecting with yourself and building that capacity and balance for your day's tasks and activities. So one tip is to think about what type of movement feels good for you. Everybody has different strengths in their movement, and it doesn't have to look the same for everybody. So you can enjoy bigger movement activities that are fun and energizing. So some ideas might be dancing to holiday music or skating, snowshoeing, going for a stroll to see festive lights, or it might even be like doing some stretching in a nice cozy space, like you have a diffuser going, nice lighting, and get your favorite water bottle, and that's a bigger body type of movement. But you can also enjoy smaller movements that I think people forget about that can also be fun and energizing for your body, that are more fine motor, more smaller movements like crafting or beading or painting. And so joyful movement is all about the well-being and how you feel with your body moving in space. And it's not about outcomes. It's not about perfection. It's really engaging in activities that feel good to you in your body, and they're fueling your brain. Yeah.
It's not about the number of reps.
No, it's not about the number of reps and at all. Yeah.
Yeah. I like with having ADHD and constantly being like, I have a lot of pent up energy, but sometimes I feel like doing, I guess, what my body needs, there's almost a conflict, right? It's like, I feel like I need to go run a marathon, but there's no way my body can do marathon running.
Yeah.
And so just engaging in even light activity, it actually has the same outcome. So I might feel like I need to run a marathon, but I just recently got a recumbent bike because I'm like, sometimes I feel like moving, but I want to sit down.
Yeah. Oh, what a great fit.
It's been great. And so even gentle movement or like low intensity movement still kind of helps deal with that need for stimulation and is helpful. And I find it joyful. Like it's letting go of that expectation. Like I feel like I should run a marathon. I should be running a marathon. It's like, no, just go watch some Netflix on your recumbent bike.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you even just frame like you feel like you need to run a marathon, because sometimes people are just have their mind is racing and they got to go. And so sometimes it's just figuring out, do I need more right now, or do I actually need less right now? And figuring out what type of movement your body actually needs. Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's like, it's calming after I do that, but I know it would be harmful for my body if I like hopped on a treadmill and tried to push.
Yeah.
So I think really defining what joyful means to you. And sometimes it is sitting down and doing beading or watercolor with my daughter. Sometimes it's baking.
Yeah.
It's movement in the kitchen. I think redefining it for yourself is good.
And I love that you said that too, because even thinking about where your body is positioned in space during those activities. So you might be doing baking or beading, but if you do it in standing, that is a different input to your body rather than sitting. Or sometimes if you do a puzzle or you read and you lie down on the floor or you sit in a beanbag chair, that gives your body more input too. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. Those are the tips that I think everyone on our team are starting to learn from you, like the spatial awareness piece. Awesome. So tip number 4, again, another good tie between dietitian and OT, and that's, being wary of diet talk as a form of being kind to yourself. And we've talked about this in earlier segments, but I think being kind to yourself is acknowledging that diet talk will show up and deciding how you want to navigate it. A lot of the times we're just internalizing it with body criticism or like allowing other people to say things. But I'd be curious how, Kellsey, you would navigate this with clients that are struggling when body talk or diet talk is coming up in conversations, and how to be kind to yourself when this happens, because we can't always, tell people our thoughts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We need to navigate it differently.
Yeah, thanks. I think that you're right. It definitely comes up in most gatherings, especially when food is often the focal point. So it can be really unhelpful and often very triggering for a lot of people. And so trying your best to steer clear of these topics can help protect your mental health and your emotional space. So I think depending on the group of people that you're with, they might be a group of safe people that you can send an email out or send a text message out ahead of time, just setting the stage that they would be really helpful if we didn't talk about these things. That might not be a comfortable strategy for all audience members, but there might be some that you can just do that out of the gate so you don't have to worry about that at the beginning or while you're there. If you're in a situation where you can't really set the stage ahead of time, you can try and practice a few one-liners or phrases to help redirect the conversation in that moment, so you're mentally prepared for when that happens. And so saying things like, you know what, I'm actually focusing on just enjoying the holiday seasons and I'm really not worrying about food. And so just kind of setting that stage right away. But it's important to practice them, like practice in front of a mirror, practice with a safe person, so that it almost comes out naturally and it feels comfortable for you to use that phrase in the moment. Another one might be, you know what, let's talk about something more fun, like holiday plans or favorite traditions, or what are you doing for New Year's this year? And coming up with a few pocket phrases that you can pull out in the moment that feel good to you. So that's kind of step one, is trying to set the stage before. How do you redirect the conversation in the moment? And then sometimes that someone might be persistent, or maybe you redirected one or two times and then someone new showed up to the party and brought it up again. I've already used my 2 phrases that I practiced. Now what am I going to do? So the other thing is, it's okay just to remove yourself in that moment too. We talked about micro rests in a different episode. And so this might be a perfect opportunity for an emotional micro rest. So maybe it's, I don't know, if it's -40, maybe you want to go to the bathroom for a moment. If it's nice enough, you can head outside for some fresh air. And it's okay just to remove yourself from that. And then by coming back in, the topic may have already changed. Or when you exit the social gathering and then you come back, you can intentionally go to someone you know isn't going to talk about that or isn't talking about that. You know, we've all been in those situations where we're, you know, in the living room stuck in a conversation, but you're like, oh, I wish I was with those people talking about that over there. So you can find a way to back away. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So those are kind of like, you know, graded ways of thinking about it, with, you know, probably the easiest, trying to set the stage first, but that's not always realistic for everybody.
Well, when we're thinking about managing holiday energy, I would have to say a lot of the people that I've worked with diet talk over the holiday season, and then worrying about food, like food worry. So whether we want to, like, thinking about, oh, I shouldn't have that, or guilty after we've had it, those are kind of 2 areas that I would say, from a dietitian standpoint, we really need to focus on that, being kind to yourself. And it's hard, but when we're thinking about finding the season a little bit more enjoyable, you know, walking away from those conversations. Sometimes I think I mentioned this in one of the other segments, is that when these maybe conversations come up, it doesn't happen as much for me, because I think I'm very vocal about what I stand for and my values, but every once in a while it might come up, and sometimes I'm just very transparent, and I might just be, because I can't always think on my feet. I can practice as much as I want in the mirror, but then when it comes up, I'm like, so I just to be like, hey, wow, you really caught me off guard on that one. And then it's put back onto them, or it's like, I wasn't really ready to talk about that. Give me a moment. I just need to gather my thoughts. And then they're like, oh, whoa, like, sorry, I didn't realize that. And then they change the subject for me.
Yeah.
I was like, that's okay, moving on. So that's a little bit maybe how I personally do it. But
well, and I like that, because that just gives you, you're giving yourself permission to also not have the perfect thing to say, right? Yeah. So some people feel comfortable having something really concrete with them, and sometimes having to remember the working memory of that is hard, right? And so giving yourself permission to have that moment too. So as an OT, it's I really love working with people and figuring out different profiles to see what are your strengths and what are areas that are hard. So if someone struggles with working memory, for example, or any language kind of stuff, or, you know, they have it all together in a quiet space, but once it's loud, they can't think of their thoughts anymore. Yeah, so I feel like that was a good reminder. I think at the end of the day too, we don't owe anyone an explanation for our food choices or our body. How you feel really does matter, and so trust your body and that it knows how to navigate those different indulgences over the holiday season.
Yeah. We have 2 more. Two more to wrap up here. And this next one, absolutely, I think most people on planet Earth will struggle with. Yeah. Especially around food, health behaviors, changes. But it's the all or nothing mentality. It's common to feel like if we maybe have had one indulgent meal or eating maybe past fullness for a meal or snack, that maybe it's ruined everything that we're trying to work towards. So I actually call it the what the hell effect.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what the hell, all or nothing. But, you know, that balancing out over time, over a time is really more so what we're looking at. One meal, one snack, or even a week worth of meals and snacks does not define our health. And, you know, I'd like to kind of see how maybe the all or nothing mindset shows up with the clients that you work with, and how you help them maybe navigate this mentality when it comes to the holiday season.
Yeah, I think that you're right. It definitely has an impact on people in all the different areas in their life, and life naturally balances out over time, and perfection isn't required in everything that we do, although we put that stress on ourselves. But it's actually we get inspiration from imperfections, right? And so we need to make mistakes, and we need to have imperfections to grow. And so reminding ourselves of that is really important. You know, a really kind of simple analogy is that if you spilt some milk, you wouldn't just go and pour the rest of the jug down the sink out of frustration, right? And you would just clean up what was spilt, and then you would move on. And so kind of like your big holiday dinner, just it's part of life's flow, and enjoy the indulgence and what you want to take out of those holiday meals. And I think as an OT with the clients here, the all or nothing approach falls into a lot of daily tasks, and it could fall into the holiday season with like Christmas shopping or the cards, like we talked about before. And I think that we're trying to do so much all the time and be so perfect, and we're kind of spreading ourselves thin all the time. Like we're kind of always running, between 20 to 30% sometimes. And so when we're only 20 to 30% everything that we do, it's hard to feel like we've accomplished something too. And so sometimes just being all in with different tasks at different moments helps create that balance and prevents that all or nothing. So you're in the holiday dinner, you're enjoying the time, you're enjoying the company, enjoy the feast, and you're all in that and enjoy it. Rather than, I'm going to have half of the dessert or half of the meal, but you really want to have all of it.
Yeah, I feel like we can navigate that. We might even start with an all or nothing mindset. Say, well, I want to indulge, and I'm going to indulge, and what have you. But the work that we do with some of our clients is talking about recognizing the body awareness of hunger and fullness and satisfaction. And even if there is a mindset like, I'm going to be all or nothing, and then halfway through a meal, you're starting to recognize satisfaction. Like, again, we can let go of the all or nothing mindset, even if we've decided to choose it.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
So we can be, like, hey, actually, I thought I needed this. I thought I wanted this, but actually I'm okay. I'm feeling satisfied. So, I think it's just giving yourself permission to listen to your body, honor what your body needs and wants. And that might be a second slice of pie, or it might be to take it home and have it later because you're really full right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no one right or wrong way. And if we think of it as right or wrong, black and white, healthy, unhealthy, that's where I think the problems arise, and the all or nothing thinking becomes problematic.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into our previous tip that we were talking about, that when you're with a group of people, everybody is different. Everybody's bodies are different. Everybody's health is different. And so what one person can or can't have, it will be different from somebody else's. And so what's healthy to one person might not be healthy to somebody else. It's very different.
Or what one person finds satisfying or tasty might be different than somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. So use that compassionate self-talk throughout the holiday season, and reframe your thinking that the one meal or snack doesn't define you or your health, and that you're allowed to enjoy the holidays without any guilt.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll wrap up here with our last topic here, and that's focus on what matters the most.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so, I mean, again, what's the most for one person might be something else for somebody else. I'm thinking about, we just talked about dessert. For me, I would really want to make sure I focus on having a dessert that I'm going to enjoy. And I know often some of the desserts that are served are not my favorite. And so for me this year, I'm going to make sure that there's the desserts that everybody likes, but I'm also going to make sure that I bring the one that I really like.
Yeah.
Because I just don't want to have another dessert that I'm like, meh about.
Yeah,
I'm planning for satisfaction. So, I think that's one of the things that matters most to me. But why don't you kind of wrap up and share the importance of focusing on what matters the most?
Sure. So I feel like really at its core, the holiday season is about connection, about joy, and it's about meaning. And by being kind to yourself, and you can redirect your energy towards what truly matters to you. So whether it's a favorite dessert, or maybe it's trying a new meal, or preparing something different that you've never had before, or making the same thing that your grandmother made all the years, right? But kindness isn't about indulgence, it's about the balance. It's allowing yourself to rest and connect without any unnecessary pressure. And reflect on what the holidays really mean to you personally. You can write it down, or you can share it with a safe person in your life. Allow yourself to let go of unrealistic expectations and focus on creating moments of peace and fulfillment for yourself, and whatever that might be. And I think the biggest key to kindness is permission. And you're this person that can give yourself that permission, and knowing that it will look different to you than someone else, and both are equally good and the right thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that tip. That is so meaningful. And I feel like I need to sit down and maybe reflect a little bit more on what the holidays mean to me personally this year, because I feel like from year to year it's shifted and changed, and things are different. So I think that's a good reminder to just think about what they personally mean, maybe what I want to get out of the holiday season this year, and how I can continue to be kind to myself through these moments of everything that we've talked about out of the 12 days. So I appreciate all your tips today. There's a lot. I don't know if we can, in a holiday season, tackle all of them. So maybe thinking about what resonates most to you and going there. But I think we'll wrap it up for now. And I'm so happy to have put on this event and have everybody with us along the way. And we will wrap it up and see you in the new year.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Bye.